Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of eDiscovery After Hours. My guest this week is Jose Gonzalez from Schutz and Bowen. I met Jose probably 6 weeks ago or so in Miami when I was down there to visit some clients, and we hit it off because, as you are about to hear, we are a couple of left-handed drummers in eDiscovery. Unlike Jose, though, I never traveled internationally performing. So we get to kind of pull up that thread a little bit and learn about his past. You're going to hear some rock and jazz and Latin and fusion drummers names, so bear with us patiently. You can also find out which celebrity he ran into at the corner of 57th and 7th in Manhattan. And having been in the law firm and the vendor space, how is it that he vets vendors and what are the kinds of things that he looks for to make sure that his team is well supported? So check it out. My sponsor, as always, is Proteus Discovery Group. Proteus provides forensic collections, e-discovery hosting, and managed document review for law firms, corporate legal teams, and government agencies from coast to coast. To learn more, check out proteusdiscovery.com. Thanks for tuning in.
Quick time!
You don't know how to drink, your whole generation.
Drinks on the house.
Yes, sir.
No, wait a second. Drinks are 50% off.
Right.
No, wait a second. Double the price of everything.
And I work only 16 hours a day.
A union man only works 8 hours a day.
I belong to 2 unions.
And now, eDiscovery After Hours with your host, Ryan Short.
Jose, welcome to eDiscovery After Hours. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
I've got St. Nick here. Merry Christmas. A little early at the time we record this.
I have whatever they give us at the office, so just 0 sugar Coke.
Yeah, that's what I got too, but I got it's festive. It's a nice surprise. I dig it. It's good to be with you, man. We met a while ago when I was down in Miami. So it's nice to be able to dig in and get to know you a little bit more here, recorded for the world to see. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for coming on.
Well, you think for having me.
All right, I like to start these things off with it's a bit of a lightning round, but I get too excited about people's answers, so it never moves as quickly as you would hope it would. But I'm going to hit you with a couple of things, and without giving it much thought, I just want you to let me know what jumps to mind. Is that all right?
Sounds good. Let's go.
What was your first concert?
First concert. Oh man, you got me on that one. I want to say it was a rap concert, but it was a combination. I think it was Run DMC, KRS-One, Bringing Down Productions, and I want to say Slick Rick.
Dang, man, look at that.
I'm old.
Was this pre or post Run DMC's collaboration with Aerosmith? Because the fan base was divided. That was a divisive moment.
I want to say it was post.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I remember when the collaboration happened, I was in my early teens, so I probably could not get into a concert, so I'm gonna got to go with post. When I say concert, this was like in the theater in Brooklyn, shady neighborhood. It was probably more the few, young kids in the crowd. Everybody else was, in their mid-20s and smoking, and I was just like, I shouldn't be here, but this is awesome.
Yeah, the best. Those are the best memories, man. I dig it.
Yeah.
All right, so that was the first concert. What was your favorite concert that you've been to?
My favorite concert I've ever been to, probably one of the Dave Matthews concerts. I kind of followed him around a little bit. Not followed him around, but saw him in a few different venues, both in New York and, coming back down here in Miami.
Yeah.
He doesn't make it down to Miami. He stops over at West Palm Beach, at the amphitheater over there. But those are always just, tons of fun.
Now, how many times have you seen him?
Probably a dozen times.
Okay.
So another favorite of mine is Spiral Gyro, which is a jazz band.
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw them when I was a teenager in South Street Seaport, New York City, and they had a drummer by the name of Rosenblatt. was his last name. It just blew me away. Joe Rosenblatt. And I remember the next day going to like, let's Tower Records and just looking for anything that had him on it with Spyro Gyra. And then from there, I discovered Dave Weckl, who was his college roommate. And then I went down that rabbit hole with him and, just opened up, a whole world of jazz, which I wasn't really into at that point. And then this is high school years. So then I kind of made that, okay, when I get to college, I'm going to study these guys and get into this. So
I love it. That's yeah, very cool. So with I want to put a pin in the jazz. I want to come back to that.
sure.
When it comes to Dave, it's funny, right? Because if you tell people, oh, you've seen him a dozen times, it's like those are rookie numbers,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like Dave, Fish, and the Grateful Dead are the three like people that will dedicate a summer or more to it. And yeah, if you're not like in the mid double digits, it's like, all right, that's cute,
Yeah, exactly.
you
I
know?
had a college buddy of mine. She and a bunch of her friends would just backpack and follow him throughout the country. And in summers, just wherever he was at, they just found a way to get to the concert and everything else, which I think is crazy. But all power to them. They really enjoyed, and they're just that have it's the same songs over and over, but they just have a certain just mellow way of getting the crowd involved and everything else, and it's just a good time.
Yeah. I'm gonna pull forward something that I want to go into a little bit later, but you and I are both drummers.
Sure.
Carter Beauford was a massive influence on me as I was learning to play and developing, kind of my own style and in thinking through how do you make a 4/4 time signature sound something that's new and fresh and kind of appealing. Have
Yeah.
you ever like taken any of his master classes or watched any of his videos or anything?
So I bought the underneath the table and drumming video. So I
Okay.
have it on VHS. Still have it.
Well played.
But one of the cool things about Carter and the way he plays is he's left-handed and he plays what we call open-handed.
Yeah.
I'm left-handed and I also play open-handed. So when I first saw Carter, one of the appeals of Dave Matthews was he was this guy who plays just like I do. Not many people do. At the time I knew of there was a guy who played piano. His name was Chuck Morris.
Yeah.
He also played it for Arsenio Hall in the Arsenio Hall band. He was the only other person besides Carter I saw play open-handed. So again, being left-handed and playing that style, and then just Dave's music being just something new when it first came out, that it was like a perfect combination for me.
So I'm also left-handed, but I do play a right-handed kit. You play a right-handed kit,
I play a
open-handed?
right-handed kit, but I don't cross my hands.
Now, do you have your ride cymbal up over the hi-hats like
Yeah,
Carter
correct.
does?
Yeah.
Wow, so that's trippy. So I play a traditional right-handed set as if I'm a right-handed drummer, but
And
I
you
can
cross your hands or your hi-hats and stuff?
I do cross stick, but I can play open if I need to. Like it was really funny. So Steve Smith, who's best known as the drummer for Journey, but again
Journey,
another another jazz guy. He and Charlie Watts, right, are kind of like I'm a jazz drummer with a rock and roll habit, right?
Right. I guess same
he
there.
Yeah, he talked about when he was developing the part for oh gosh, what's the most famous song of all time from Journey? Don't Stop Believing.
Don't Stop Believing, yeah.
Yeah, he talked about when he was developing that part, he had to teach himself to play open-handed. And I'm just like, I guess I'm like, I guess it's just a left-handed thing because we're able, we've just got those muscles that pure righty doesn't have. So, all right, very cool.
All my days when I did a lot of cover bands, that song was easy, and everybody's like, "How do you play it so well?" It's like, well, it's more natural for me because my right hand is on the toms.
Yeah,
and I can still keep time over here. So
yeah,
kind of makes it easier.
All right, we're gonna come back to the drums in a minute. Two or three more questions on this. As I said, the slowest lightning round in the history of podcasts. Favorite vacation spot, which is tough because you live in a vacation spot, as we can see over your shoulder.
Yeah, I live where people vacation, is what I like to tell people. But
You like to go to like southern Vermont in the middle of summer for vacation.
You know what? My wife is from Spain, and I love Madrid. So, whenever we get a chance, we go over to Madrid, and we'll spend a couple of days there before we go. Her family's from the northern part of Spain, Galicia, which is beautiful and fantastic, picturesque and everything else. But there's something about Madrid, and that city is just magical.
Yeah.
There's a couple of places, but Madrid for me just stands out the most.
Nice. So your wife grew up in Madrid.
No, my wife actually grew up here, but she's from Spain. She's from up there, and then her family moved over when she was a baby.
Got it.
So,
And did one or both of you grow up in dual language households?
we both did. So we
Okay.
both speak dual languages, which is ironic. I grew up, my parents are from Puerto Rico. My Spanish was horrific when I first moved to Miami. Just because my Spanish was just mostly spoken with my grandparents and my mother. So when I first moved to Miami, if your Spanish is not good here, you're not going to survive. So my Spanish actually improved when I moved here, even though I moved here in my 30s. But it's gotten a lot better. But if you ask my wife, she would tell you I don't speak Spanish, and I should never speak Spanish around anybody.
We are teaching my little gringo children Spanish and Latin. And so we'll see. We're building the foundation because I didn't start learning a language until high school. And by that point, you just don't want to do anything anybody tells you to do. So, and then, if you don't have like the most natural aptitude for it, it's a lot of work. And so I was like, I do think that there's a lot of value in speaking multiple languages. I think you can be more empathetic. I think you can express ideas that maybe you can't in your native tongue. And so I was like, we're gonna just indoctrinate our kids real early. And there's some really incredible programs out there. Like even if you're not like a proficient or conversational speaker of a language, there's great programs out there that you can go through either independently or teaching your kids. So
it's great to speak a different language. Growing up in Brooklyn, I had a lot of Italian friends. So not that I was fluent in Italian, but I understood a lot of what was being said. And speaking with their parents who basically only spoke Italian, you kind of had to have that, at least respectful couple of words that you could talk to their parents about. So, that and mixed with the Spanish and then English and New York language,
that's right.
Yeah, but I think it does open up different possibilities and just gives you a different way of thinking. So there's a lot of times when I'm thinking of something, and again, I'm not the greatest of Spanish speakers, but I can express something better in Spanish than I can in English.
Yeah.
But that kind of then, makes you think of things a little differently. So
yeah, I dig it. All right, two more. Most famous person you've ever met?
Most famous person I ever met. Man, I've met a few. I met Jamie Foxx in the elevator when I worked at Green Victoria. They were filming the Miami Vice movie in the building, and just got in an elevator with him one time. So
that's super cool. Did you talk to him?
Yeah, he was pretty funny.
Nice.
Said a couple of things, and then during that shoot, Colin Farrell was there. There was also a commercial shot there. I saw Vladimir Guerrero and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and they were doing a Pepsi commercial. So we got to see them. They didn't get to speak to them much, but growing up in New York, I would run into people all the time.
Yeah.
In a bank, or actually one time turned a corner and literally bumped into someone, and it was Henry Winkler, the Fonz.
No way.
Yeah, so I apologized, and he said, "No, it's my fault." And people passing by went, "Hey, Fonzie!"
Which is funny because he's I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm like he's like 5'0" nothing. Like he is
he's a small guy.
He's a tiny man. Yeah, but supposedly like the nicest man in Hollywood.
I remember exactly where it was. I was on 57th and 7th, not too far from where this CEO thing happened. I used to work right across the street when I worked out in the Buffalo Green and McRae, New York. So yeah, just turned the corner, bumped into him, apologized right away without knowing who it was, and then it took me a minute. I was like, "Whoa, it's Henry Winkler." So
yeah, nice. All right, and finally, most used non-work related app on your phone.
Oh man, it has to be YouTube. I'm a YouTube junkie. Yeah,
did you know this is kind of it's a little meta asking this question on a podcast, but Did you know that YouTube is the #1 platform where people consume podcasts?
Really?
Yeah, it's a theoretically audio medium, but we're recording this right now, video, and so we post it out on YouTube. And I will say that this is a little niche enough podcast, right? That we get anywhere from a few dozen to a few hundred views on YouTube's, and then 3 to 10 times that listens, because this is the kind of thing that people are consuming in the background while they work. But a lot of these massive podcasts, that it doesn't matter if it's comedy or politics or business or whatever, a lot of them have as many or more followers on YouTube than they do on Spotify or Podbean or iTunes or anywhere else. It's crazy.
I can see it because you're probably looking at a video you like, and then a suggestion comes up for a podcast that you saw, and then you just kind of go into that rabbit hole. And
Yeah.
lately, it's pretty funny. My wife makes fun of me. I'm into watching a couple of YouTubers that fix cars, but like they fix wrecked cars. So they'll buy a car that like a Lamborghini that's far it's like 100,000. It's a $700,000 car, and they fix it up. And I've just been eating these things up. So I'll be processing some data over here and then watching YouTube videos and seeing how they fix this car. I was like,
Are you
do
do you work on your own cars?
No, but I'm a supercar kind of guy. I just bought one. I'm not gonna say which one it is, but I just got a really nice one. Kind of my gift to myself for paying off my student loans. So I'm done with that. And
The best way to celebrate paying off student loans is getting into car debt.
yeah, exactly. But my children are out the house. College is paid for. Life is good. So I went and bought a car that I've been wanting to buy for a long time. My wife says it's my midlife crisis car, even though I've passed midlife crisis. But we'll take it. It's a lot of fun to drive.
I'm staring down the other side of the barrel of that gun with 5 young kids who are not yet approaching college. That's why usually when I'm drinking Coke, there's rum in it or something stronger.
My brother-in-law, ironically, he and I are the same age. We're a week apart. My wife's brother, and in his 30s and 40s, he was, driving Porsche GT3 RS, and he was doing this and that. But now they have 2 young kids, and now he's making tons of money, but he can't buy a Porsche because he has 2 young kids. He can't put it in the back of a Porsche. So we had breakfast yesterday, and we were talking about that. He was like, "I need to drive your car," and I'm like, dude, whenever you want, drive the car. I know he misses driving it around, but he's being a responsible dad now and everything else. But it's pretty funny how our lives have changed in the balance. So
Heck yeah. I'm what can I say? The Subaru Ascent is very stylish. All right, so let's circle back to this because when we met, it's always super exciting to find fellow drummers in the wild because so many of us blend in with normal day jobs, and then when people find out, it's like, whoa, like
yeah.
you're kind of like a wild animal. So how did you get started playing? Because no parent, as you know, no parent dreams of their child becoming a drummer. And growing up in New York City, it's not like, you have this bevy of space with soundproof room. Like, this is a thing. So how did you get started on that track?
Weird. I've been a musician my entire life, just different things here and there. Kind of just fell into drums. My dad wanted to put a band together, and he just told me, "You're gonna play drums," and he told my brother, "You're gonna play bass, and I'll play guitar." But my brother was already a guitarist at that point. I was a celloist. I played the cello.
I was going to ask if you play other instruments.
Yeah, I played the cello at that time. I played some guitar. Now I play a lot more guitar, but so yeah, I just kind of fell into it, and within a couple of weeks, it just came natural. So because my brother was like, "Well, if it doesn't work out, let me try drums." I'm like, "All right." So I can't get this drum thing down, but it just came natural, and just started playing there. And once I got to school and started playing with school, and your friends learn, and you start playing, pickups here and there. And then when you get to college and you're starving, you kind of pay a little bit more of attention. And I'm fortunately enough to travel and play with some big Latin bands, and that was a great time. But that's kind of how I got into that and Latin percussion, and before all this e-discovery stuff. So
Now, when you say travel, do you mean regionally, nationally, internationally?
No, all over the world. So I got to play with a big Latin band. They had a #1 hit. And yeah, we did, US tours, South Central American tours. It was a lot of fun. Lasted about 3 years, probably, from beginning to I always say that thing you do end, because it's kind of how it ended.
Yeah.
But it was a great ride. And from there, I've been able to do a lot of work just, based on the reputation of doing that. So,
Yeah, because
I've
you
been
still gig around Miami, right?
yeah, I still do a lot of gigging. I still mostly Latin stuff, which is one of the things miss about being in New York. In New York, it was, rock one day, jazz another day, salsa one day. So here is mostly just Latin or cover bands.
Yeah.
So, it's a little different, but I'm not at the point where I need to do it for money, so I could just pick and choose what I want to do. It's a lot of fun that way. And I get to play with some great musicians down here. So being that Miami is kind of like central to Latin and South America, we get like the best Colombians and the best Venezuelans and these amazing musicians that make their way over to Miami.
Yeah.
And just outstanding stuff. So you get to play with top-notch guys. They keep you on your toes. If not, you'll get lazy and not practice and all the other good stuff that comes with it. So
Yeah, I think Miami, and maybe you can correct my perception or confirm it. It's like a sneaky good live music town. Like you mentioned
it
earlier,
is.
like, oh, Dave, doesn't come down here. He plays, West Palm Beach or, people think about like the club scene in Miami for those of us in the Midwest or in the Northeast or wherever. But I've been there a handful of times and I'm always impressed by the number of live music venues, the quality of the venues, just the quality of the local bands that you can see on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's sneaky, especially if you go to like the Windward area and that, it's just a lot of whatever kind of music you want to hear.
Yeah.
But just, and it's funny because you would think New York has better musicians, and we probably did. But here there's a lot more of them.
Yeah.
So, obviously people go to New York to hire musicians, which is how, a lot of us got started. But here it's crazy. It's hard to run into a bad musician in Miami.
Yeah, that's
At least
incredible.
that's been my take on it. Maybe just because, I've
You're
had
running
a
around
really-
in good circles, though. I
Yeah,
think.
exactly. So when I first got here, I didn't have to, start at the bottom because I knew some people already. But yeah, for the most part, it's gonna be even that you go to. I do sound for a church, and even the church musicians are just like, whoa, what's going on here? So
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
another thing that I do. I don't know if I spoke to you about that, but I do mixing and I'm on studio and stuff like that. So
Oh, that's incredible.
yeah, so I do a lot of live, I do live sound sometimes and just
Yeah.
record my friends and put their albums out and stuff like that. So
There's a list support manager in St. Louis I'm gonna have to hook you up with. You guys can trade notes. He does the
oh
same
great.
thing. Yeah, he does the same thing.
Oh,
He worked with some really big names like in the 90s, and then he was just like, I need something consistent. And he fell into this. And
yeah,
but he's still active in much the same way. And he also is a drummer. So there you go. It's a small world.
we
All
make
right.
better
So
music.
when this podcast is called E-Discovery After Hours, so we will touch very lightly on our day jobs here. When you got into the space, it was on the law firm side of things, correct?
Correct. So
Okay.
I've always kind of worked at a law firm since graduating college in different roles. I got into the e-discovery space when the managing partner at the firm I was in New York asked me to go to California and go look at this product that could take transcripts and put it in the computer, and then we could search with this magical thing called optical character recognition.
Yeah.
And go California, check this out. And at the time we were working on the Exxon Valdez case. I don't know if you remember that. And we had a room for the transcripts, like floor to ceiling. And this was going to be revolutionary to us. So I went to California, and what I went to see was early on summation. And at the time, we just cared about the transcript part. But when I saw it, I wanted, what's this other thing? What's this discovery thing? So when I got back to New York, I was like, this is what we need to concentrate on. Yeah, this is great and this is easy, but this is kind of the future. So that's how I kind of got into it. When I came back to Miami, with Greenberg is when I really got busy because Greenberg was kind of in the forefront. They were already doing a lot of things that other firms weren't doing. So that kind of was like my school. And for a lot of people, it's been, kind of the school of e-discovery. So
Yeah. Now, you also did a stint in the vendor world, right? At least one stint in the vendor world.
yeah. So I worked for Rico.
Okay.
In between, I also worked in-house for Grant Thornton. We almost forgot that. Grant Thornton, the accounting firm.
Yeah.
So kind of in-house.
Still in the
Vendor.
professional services world,
Yeah,
albeit not strictly law
vendor,
firm.
but
Yeah.
But
So
mostly
having been having been on the dark side as we vendors, as we know who we are. In your role now, firm-wide, is it manager, director, lit support, right? It shuts Bowen.
Yeah, manager, firm-wide manager.
Yeah. So obviously, your job now is to say, okay, well, we're going to build as much of this as we can in-house, right? And contribute to the defensibility and the profitability of this firm's work. But there's still going to be vendors involved. Maybe it's collections, maybe it's overflow PM work, maybe it's doc review work, whatever. Having been in the vendor world, did that give you maybe a better lens or better criteria as you think about how to vet partners? Like you've been able to see under the hood, and has that helped you in your day job as you go back into the law firm space?
Absolutely. What I tell people all the time is that I wish everyone did both vendor and law firm, because what happens when you work at a firm is you kind of see things one way. It's how that firm does things. When you go to a vendor, it opens up your eyes to how everybody does things and kind of best practices, right? And what some people are good at, some people are bad at. So when I judge vendors and whatever, most of it is just collection and review. But right away, I could tell just by having conversations where their strong points are and where they're not so strong. So definitely a big help. And again, I wish everyone could work at a vendor that pace, seeing how different things are done. Because, more than one way to skin a cat, and those will save you sometimes when you're in a tough situation. So
Yeah.
and one of the things I tell people, and one of the guys that works with me here, Sal, he and I used to work together at Greenberg, is when we first started, all low files were bad. So we were in the business of fixing low files.
Yeah.
Because it was such a new medium. So now when you talk to some of these vendors, if low files doesn't come out right, they don't know how to fix it. So having those conversations with some PMs and things, I can again tell which vendors are going to be right for us and which a little raw and might still need some time before they get, any kind of consideration. So
yeah, who's green and who's got some dirt under their fingernails?
oh man, some of the big ones sometimes send me low files. I'm like, whoa. Simple things like the wrong compression on the tips, and it's easy to push a button. It's hard when it doesn't work, and you have to fix it. And that's, I think, what separates a lot of the good PMs and the great PMs from some of the others. So, and again, with vendors, Juan Abelaidas, who's the Greenberg director of Greenberg Lit Support, he and I are good friends, and we talk about there are some vendors that losing one person away from being horrible. Some vendors have one great person, and if that person ever leaves, that vendor's done. And it shouldn't be that way. But where do you go to learn this stuff? This is kind of a on-the-job training kind of a thing. So
yeah, it is incredible how lean a lot of organizations run. And I've been at one place for almost 5 years, so I can't really speak from firsthand experience as to whether or not that's a choice, driven by finances or the challenges of recruiting or what have you. We kind of take the philosophy of overstaffing intentionally here because we don't want to burn our people out. And there's peaks and valleys. And so sure, when there are valleys, you might be taking it on the chin a little bit in terms of profitability. But when those inevitable peaks come, you're not going to be burning your people out, right? And having them make sloppy mistakes because they're putting in too many hours and trying to coordinate too many projects. And so, yeah, it's challenging. I think the other tough thing is it's really hard to find solid, experienced people who have the technical chops that you're talking about. And I think, I don't know, maybe a lot of that is because they have just been in one, it's like, oh, I only track data, or I only ingest data, or I only do production QCs. And it's tough to find people who they can see the forest through the trees. You know what I mean?
Been through the gauntlet the last 10, 15 years, and now they get to pick and choose what they want to do, who they want to work for. And, more power to them, they deserve it. But, some vendors do a great job of keeping everybody, fresh and teaching them. But I think some vendors are more about the profit and don't realize that they're burning some of their people out. And, law firms are notorious for not caring if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so we try not to do that. Well, we don't do that. I've been on that side of it. So planning ahead, getting your teams aligned is what I preach. And, we try to make this as much as a 9 to 5 job as possible here. Don't want my people burned out. If it has to go out tonight and you didn't do your due diligence, your client's going to get billed. Because, we don't work 24 hours a day. So, we gotta, being burnt out, and I've been there, is not a good philosophy to have, especially when you have, we're one mistake away from being something being catastrophic,
You're one mistake away
really
from
bad.
sanctions at every
Yeah,
step.
exactly. So, we want those people fresh and not burnt out and tired, and we want to make sure that they have time to QC. That, we're not just rushing something out the door and oops, we produced something we shouldn't have produced because of the rush. So, it's all about planning and teaching. And most of what I do is teach. And, I've become more of a teacher, and I have a great team here, and they could do everything. And I'll jump in and I'll do a lot of stuff. But I'm just trying to teach people how to be proactive, be, more responsive, think ahead. When we ask you to do things a certain way, it's not because we want it easy. It's because we could see the forest through the trees. We could see the end game when they're not thinking about the end game. So I always try to tell people, think backwards. Think about the end, how we're going to get there. Because what might be easy for you, or what somebody might think is important, it's not as important because something's going to get missed on the end. Or you might save 2 minutes now, but you're going to spend hours or days at the end of it. So let's think things through. So that's pretty much my approach, is just try to help the teams, try to plan out, try to work with people, especially when they're new, and of the whys. Why can't we do something? Why we don't want to do something? And, how can we get there? How can they can be more efficient? So
I can't think of a better note to end on than that. That was neat and tidy. You're a vendor's dream.
well,
Jose, cheers, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.